All right, team. Well, I've got us right at the top of the hour here, and very appreciative of everyone being on with us for today. And very excited that we are now up to our seventh installment of the Wells Fargo Beyond College webinar series for 2021. And so I really want to thank everyone who's been joining us throughout the course of this year. I also want to give a quick shout out to all of the graduates. I know we've got high school graduates on with us here for today, and we've got college graduates who are also joining us. So we salute you all and want to say congratulations on all of the great work that you've done. Everything that you've accomplished has paid off, and now you're ready for the next phase of things. And whether that phase is heading off to college, my goodness, in a couple of weeks, or whether that's going to summer school classes, or maybe that's around an internship or even full-time roles, we are confident that the content that we're going to share with you today is going to be very, very helpful. Today is all about salary versus value, how to determine which role is right for you. So really excited. As we jump to the next slide, we'll talk just about a couple of items that I want you to kind of keep in mind. Again, my name is Dewey Norwood, very fortunate to serve as the relationship manager for Wells Fargo's higher education portfolio, and honored to be your host, better yet, here for today's broadcast. And I think that we put together another exceptional panel that's going to provide you with some really, really good information as you're progressing along your journey. So you'll see my contact information there. Feel free to send a request to me via LinkedIn, and go ahead and be proactive. You're going to be meeting our wonderful presenters in a few moments. Let's make sure that you're getting connected in with them. And certainly, please make sure you're getting connected in with the API Scholars staff. And API Scholars team, thank you all so much for hosting these wonderful events for us. We're always appreciative of having an opportunity to get connected in with you all. So a little bit about me here on this slide. Hey, let's keep it moving here. Let's take a look at what's next. From an agenda perspective, we're going to touch on some important items in the Wells Fargo spotlight. And we're also going to dig into it today, team. We're going to talk about comp or compensation. We're going to talk about interview processes, negotiating. Hey, when you've got multiple offers on the table, how do you make a decision on the one that's right for you? We're going to touch on all of those pieces. Some common Zoom etiquette. We're in a presentation mode today, so you're only going to see our featured speakers and presenters as they're sharing. So just know that that's how we'll operate with things here for today. But we are going to be utilizing the Q&A components of things. So please, throughout the broadcast, at any time, go ahead and submit a question over to us. Our team is going to keep an eye on those, and we'll be able to address those questions real time. Here's our rule. If you submit a question, it's going to come into us, but we're never going to read your name on camera. We're not going to say who the questions came in from, but I promise you, scholars and participants, if this question is important to you, I bet you it's probably important to others. When we get to the end, we're going to give you some reminders about some additional resources that are available. And then don't forget to get social with us. Use that hashtag WFC Beyond College. Again, WFC, which is Wells Fargo's trading symbol on the New York Stock Exchange, WFC Beyond College. Go ahead and tag and mention our wonderful firm as you're sharing in those areas as you deem appropriate. And then mark your calendars now. We're going to talk about this a lot. July the 29th. Say it with me, July the 29th. One more time, July the 29th. This is the day for our biggest webinar of the year. Last year, partners, we had over 2,100 students that joined that webinar to hear specifically about career opportunities. And please note, this conversation will talk about career opportunities for 2022. You may say, well, Dewey, you're going to talk about those things next month? Absolutely. Because the timeline around recruiting starts very, very early. You got to be there. Must be there with us on July the 29th. And then right after that ends, you can go over and watch the NBA draft, which is that same night too. So we'll let you keep those things in mind from that perspective. All right, the next item I think is going to jump into our Zoom etiquette. And again, you guys know a lot of these pieces, so we can continue on. Nicole, thank you with these. From a Zoom perspective, again, we're in the presenter mode only here for today. So you'll see, again, each of our presenters. And then don't forget, again, to just maximize or minimize as you need to. If you want to see everyone there or need to make any adjustments relative to the screen size to see the presenters of things, you have the ability to adjust those areas within your respective settings. So, Nicole, thank you so much for that information there. All right, for the Wells Fargo Spotlight, really want to celebrate two great programs that are just up and running. Huge shout out to our friends over at Scholarship America that actually administers this particular program for us. So we are just kicking off. It's only been out for a week. The Wells Fargo Veterans Scholarship and also Emergency grant program. You see the URL here. Please go ahead and capture that, share that information with others. Great program for any of our veterans out there that are looking for a renewable scholarship. Let's talk plainly, a renewable scholarship that's available, but also in the event that there's some emergency dollars that are needed. Maybe there's an expense that came up that you weren't expecting. We've got some emergency grant dollars available as well for this wonderful program. So please get connected there. Critical that you get your applications in over the next few weeks with a deadline that's right in the early portion of July. And I think our final spotlight slide today will be around our Wells Fargo scholarship for people or students with disabilities. We are excited now to be in the 5th year of this great program. And I want you to note a couple of things here, team. Right at the top, June the 30th is the deadline. We are, 13 days away, less than 2 weeks away from the deadline on this one. So it's critical that you get your applications in immediately. And please note, we're only going to accept the first 700 applications. And I can tell you, we are well on our way to having those meeting that threshold. So please go ahead and get those items submitted. And again, whether it's a full-time program or even if you're attending school on a part-time basis, you have the ability to apply for this program if you meet the minimum criteria. So please take a look at these programs, share the information with others, pass it along to classmates that may benefit from these wonderful programs. So that's the Wells Fargo Spotlight there for today. I wanted to touch on those important items with things. As we continue on, I really want to quickly hand the reins over to a pair of trusted partners. And candidly, these are partners that have been with us throughout a number of elements of the Beyond College webinar. So we've got Ruth Almondati's back. Ruth, I think you get a set of steak knives now. You've been here so many times. And the scholars are like, steak knives? What does that mean? If you do something over and over and over, you get something free. So Ruth, I think your steak knives, we're going to send them to you in Texas or in Arizona. So we're excited to have you on. Again, 24 years of experience across the financial services industry and other kinds of spaces. Great partner who's going to be able to give you some candid information today. And also our buddy Kit Cam joining us from the Texas market and the Texas region. Again, 20 years of industry experience. Yes, she did start when she was age 10. So let's just get that on the public record around things. But again, another trusted partner that Scholars is on the front lines advocating for you and candidly looking for ways to onboard you onto and into careers within financial services. So Ruth, Kit, excited to be on with you all for today. I want to give you some quick metrics, but even before that, again, I want to celebrate API Scholars. I want to make sure that everyone is aware that this year's series is actually being sponsored by Nicole Harmon and the team at API Scholars. So special thanks to Karen and to Dawn and to Nicole and to the rest of the team. They don't come on the screen often, but I want to make sure that we get on the record how appreciative our firm is to have you all as national partners and also have you hosting this wonderful series for us. And they make us look good as we do these. So Ruth and Kit, you ready for some metrics here before we hand things over to you? I want to go ahead and give you our top performers. You all know we're bankers, so we keep score. We've had our top referral sources for this month are the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. Of course, APIA Scholars, always right at the top of the league tables. And our friends over at TMCF or the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. And then from a college perspective, Bowie State, Bowie is always in the house. Bowie is always going to show up strong for us. FIU is in the mix here with us in the top 3. I think this may be your first time that we've had partners from FIU connecting in these kinds of areas. And then also UC Berkeley is in the mix here with us and in the top 3. So the band is officially on the field with UC Berkeley, and the scholars are like, what is he talking about? Just go on YouTube and type the band is on the field and you'll be like, Dewey, I got you. So, all right, I've been playing around a lot today. Ruth, Kit, I want to give you all the reins from here. I know you've got some great content. Certainly want to hand the reins over to you, and scholars, go ahead and start making those outreaches to our great partners here. Ruth, Kit, we're going to turn the reins over to you all at this time.
Thank you so much, Dewey. And Kit and I are both excited to be with you guys today. And we're going to kick it off with a poll. So if you see this poll question coming up, if you guys could, think about what your answer is and, what's the most important factor to you when you're evaluating an offer. For some of you, it might be 401k, employee benefits, salary, including bonus, location, right? Do you want to stay close to home? Do you want to telecommute? Are you looking for a big city move? The company brand is very important. And then all other factors. Maybe it's more about career mobility. Maybe you are looking for a very robust training program. What is the factor that is the most important to you? And we'll do the same poll at the very end to see if, maybe some of the things that Kit and I share today changes your thoughts. And look, to be transparent, none of us have hit the lotto, so we know salary is always going to be important. So we know that's always going to be a top choice. But looking to see if our percentages change a little bit throughout the session. So let's go ahead and close the poll and see what those results are. Yep, just like we thought, salary is 41%. And then right after that is all other factors. And I will say, after 2020 and the pandemic, all of those factors are coming into play. Individuals are not necessarily, thinking about, one particular thing. Now it's like, okay, how, will I be able to work from home? What does that mean? What is the exposure am I going to get? Am I going to lose something? There are a lot of different factors that are kind of all bundled in, and that I'm not surprised that that's at 29%. So let's close that poll and move on to the next slide, please. All right. So as you're evaluating salary, all those components come into play, and salary is always going to be at top of mind for all of us, whether you're currently working and looking for a promotion, or you're looking to make a move somewhere else, or you've just started your career path and are applying for positions. So as you evaluate an offer, and even if it comes to an offer that is, both of them are at 50K, starting pay is 50K, they both look great on paper, and you think, well, but this one's going to be in, San Francisco. I've always wanted to live there. That's where I want to go. But the other one is maybe in Dallas, Texas, and also has a bonus structure that comes with it. Maybe it has a sign-on bonus, has a very robust training program, where the other one that maybe is in the location that you want it to doesn't have a bonus program, and maybe comes with no sign-on bonus. And now you have to look at the factors that come into play with salary. Is that 50K in San Francisco going to allow you to have a sustainable living? Or do you need to look at another market? Or maybe that 50K is just a start, and that 6 months after that, or maybe it's earning potential after that is going to jump. So you're going to evaluate those based on, what that company is offering. So compensation is not always that dollar amount. It is what comes with that dollar amount. What am I going to get short term and long term? As you think of a career, think of it as your short game and long game. There are different factors to think about. So make sure that you're looking at that. Other factors that come into play when you are looking at an offer is, if you're going to telecommute, you're going to be saving on dry cleaning. You're going to be working from home. You don't have to, maybe see clients in business attire. And obviously going to save on, having to drive, your car, gas, parking. But what if you do have to go into the office? Does the company have a, parking garage where you're parking? Or maybe you're in a central metro market where maybe you're downtown and you're having to pay out of pocket to park in a parking garage. And a parking garage could, depending on the city, could be up to $100 a month. So all those things come into play. So as you are talking to your recruiter, those are questions that you should be thinking about when you are interviewing, when you are getting prepared to think about what questions am I going to ask? Does that company offer a 401k? And if they do, our advice to you is start your 401k as soon as you are eligible to start contributing. 401k money, if a company matches your contributions, if you don't sign up, and they do a match, guess what? That's money that you're leaving on the table, because they're not going to match $0, right? So there's no money. But if you are contributing and that company matches, that is money that's going into your retirement plan. So many of you are young, you might be in your 20s, mid 20s, or even younger than 20. You're thinking, well, 401k, what is that? How's that going to impact me? That is going to impact your long game. So please, please, please consider signing up for your 401k as soon as you're eligible. Some companies, you have to be there a year before you're eligible, or sometimes you can start right away and they won't start matching until after a year. So make sure that you understand your benefits packets when you speak to the recruiter. You also want to think about the benefit plans, right? So most companies have a general rule. If they offer medical benefits, the company will average and pay about 2/3, and the employee pays 1/3 of that coverage. Ask that recruiter that they may not be talking to you about benefits in that first initial interview, but as you are getting close to the finish line of your interviewing process, and even once they make you an offer, it is absolutely okay to ask for, can you give me some information on your benefits package? Can you give me, the offer in writing? That gives you an opportunity to review it and think about, okay, is this going to be the right fit for you? Companies want you to have a one-to-one match, right? Not take a job just to take a job, right? You want to be there because it is not only the right thing for you, but you add value to that company. So make sure that you're thinking about that. And then sometimes what you want to also think about is, as you are exploring companies, you're not always going to target large companies. You might be maybe looking at a startup because it's going to give you a little bit faster mobility. Or maybe you're thinking of a small regional company because you want to stay close to region, close to family. Maybe those are some of the deciding factors for you. But know that what you want to think about is what's going to benefit you for your potential growth, both financially and professionally, and take those into consideration as you are thinking about the career. So all of those things that you're thinking about will help you kind of think about what questions you're going to ask in that interview process. So let's jump in and talk about what that interview process looks like very quickly, and then I'll tip it over to my pal Kit. All right. So an interview process, the interview process is not just an opportunity for you to sell your skill sets to the company. It's a two-way street. It's an opportunity for you to get to know the company, get to know the benefits package. So as you go through your first interview, in that first interview, you might be asking about salary, or the recruiter might be asking you, what salary are you looking to make? One of the key things that you want to do is you don't want to lowball yourself, right? Because maybe you say, well, I'm only looking to make, in your head, you're thinking, God, if I could make, 40,000, I'd take it. But the fair market price for that particular position might be 55. So it is perfectly acceptable to say, I'm looking to be fairly compensated for the role that I'm being hired. Can you tell me a little bit more about the compensation for this role? The recruiter will then walk you through what that salary range is, right? They might say, based on the market, here's the range. Or they might say, this is the starting salary for all our trainees. Every trainee comes in at this. This is what they're eligible for. And that gives you an idea of how to think about, okay, here are my next questions. Okay, I've checked that off. And now in my next question, I'm going to ask about benefits, telecommute, dress code. So all of those things come into play. You should never get to that final round of interviews and get an offer and then say, let's talk about salary. Now, at the offer stage, certainly you can counter and you can discuss that if that is an option, but you should never get to the offer stage and go, wow, I thought they were going to pay me more money. Not only have you wasted your time, but that interviewer might say, gosh, why did you go through the entire process when that was not a salary that you were willing to take? If you know up front what that salary option is going to be for that position, it gives you an opportunity to have an open dialogue with the recruiter, and that recruiter is there to help you along the way. So just make sure that you know that when you're going into your interview process. It gives you an opportunity to then get that verbal offer, evaluate it, look at all the components. If there's an option to negotiate, you have that conversation with the recruiter. And then at that point, if there is a new salary that is agreed upon, another offer letter will then be generated. And then at that point, you accept or decline it. And that way the recruiter knows that you have been transparent through the entire process. That recruiter is there to help you. And then that recruiter can then set you up for success as you move on to your new career.
Hey, Ruth, this is Dewey. Just a quick chime in here. And you touched on a big word around the negotiation piece of this. The salary comes up at a certain time. And again, scholars, I heard Ruth say this. This is not what happens in your first interview. You sit down and, you fix your suit or your dress and you say, oh, by the way, how much are you going to pay me? Not cool there, but it will come on later on. Give me 30 more seconds on this negotiation piece. Is this a one-time deal? Can I go back and then go back and go back again? Please give us a little bit more color on that.
That's a really great point, right? You want to be decisive, right? So don't be indecisive. And here's the reality. companies know that you are interviewing with multiple organizations. The recruiter is going to flat out ask you, do you have any expiring offers? If you have expiring offers, that recruiter now knows, okay, there's other people in play, and they're going to ask you about it. So please don't bluff. That recruiter knows. And that also gives you the opportunity to say, can I negotiate the time for acceptance? So sometimes negotiating an offer is not just negotiating the salary, right? It may just be where, gosh, I'm really excited about this offer. I have another interview that I'm doing tomorrow, and they are going to be making decisions by X date. Would it be okay to be able to review both offers and make a decision? That is completely acceptable. A recruiter is going to say yes. Now, if a recruiter, maybe there's a non-negotiable where the manager says, we got to have everybody start on this day, maybe background checks. There are going to be some scenarios when you are cutting it close to deadline where the recruiter might say, we can't. But if you are early on in the process, which you all should be early on in the process and interviewing in the fall, don't wait till the week of graduation while you're applying. Yeah. Then if you're early on in the process, that recruiter is going to give you the leeway to say, yes, I'm going to give you that extra time. Not only are you respecting the current recruiter's time that you're working with, the manager's going to know, makes you more competitive. And then your other company also is going to appreciate that. And the other piece that I will say, and I think Kit will also reemphasize this when she's going through her slides, once you've accepted an offer, it is bad show to renege just because you're like, I think I want to keep my options open. So, I'm going to not accept any offers now. That's a very big risk. So that is one of the reasons why the recruiters will work with you to really make sure you understand the role, the program you're getting hired into. You want to really approach the interview process as a time for you to really understand, is this a company I want to work for? And make sure that you make a very faithful decision to say, I'm accepting or declining. Kit will talk a little bit more about this as she goes through it, and I hope that you guys have some more questions. So I'm going to hand it over to Kit for the next slide.
Awesome. Great. Thanks, Ruth. So lots to consider, as you can hear from Ruth and what Dewey had asked, right? So on this particular slide, we're going to go over some of those situations and some things that you need to keep in mind as you're considering some of those items that's critical to you, right? So some factors to review when you're evaluating that job offer. So basically what Ruth just is telling you is you should have done your research by this time, right? Prior to the interview, during, and even during your interview process and at the offer process as well, okay? Because here comes the job offer, and this is your next challenge is now that you've achieved that offer in hand, congratulations. But you are probably saying in your head, oh crap, now what? Well, you want to do your due diligence to learn as much as possible about the company, as Ruth had mentioned. Things such as culture, the environment, the learning opportunities, benefits, growth opportunities, as Ruth had mentioned, all of those components that Ruth had mentioned, right? Hopefully you were taking notes during the interview process and really soaking in the experiences that you've had and interactions that you've had along the way, because those actually will give you some really great insight into the culture and the potential work that you're going to be stepping into, okay? Those notes and experiences, like I said, will truly help as you evaluate the job offer. So research is really key in making sure that you have the data and facts that you'd need to really determine what the pay scale is appropriate for similar positions in that company against other companies. Utilize sites such as Glassdoor, Indeed, Salary.com, and PayScale, just to name a few. I've leveraged those in those websites to really help me as well over my 20 plus years of experience in negotiations. But also others have utilized that and have been successful in providing and gathering research information from there and helping them to counter negotiate, basically. You'll also want to consider the company's reputation, the industry, and how stable is it in the current marketplace. Things to keep in mind. Also, when you interviewed with the team, did you feel like you fit into the environment? Again, about the culture. overall company culture, but there's also that smaller culture within that team, right? Did you connect with the interviewers and everyone that you kind of spoke with, right? Was there consistency in terms of how they responded, et cetera? And most importantly, do you fully understand the scope of the role and really the career potential that this position and the company has to offer? Really understanding the overall compensation package is really critical because it's not just about the base pay, as Ruth had mentioned, okay? So let's move to the center box there. Evaluating the company is important, but so is assessing your skill sets and backgrounds to ensure that the organization and the position is a good match for you, not just for now, but also longer term, right? Does this role really mentally stimulate you? There's nothing worse than being in a role or a position with a team that really exhausts you mentally, okay? You'll want to be performing this work. You're going to be basically working there 8 hours, if you're lucky to a certain extent, 5 days a week. You're going to be spending a lot of time doing this work with the team that you're working with. So make sure that you know the job responsibilities. Is it going to challenge you? And is it going to truly keep you engaged, right? So understanding the day-to-day functions of the role is one of those critical items that you should consider, okay? Also, does the company's values, goals align to yours? For example, you know, how do they feel as a company about philanthropy, community involvement? I know those are critical things for me. So it is important for me to find out if that aligns to who I am and what I want to do potentially as well, not just work-wise with that 8 to 5, 5 days a week, but also more in the community that I work in, okay? I strongly recommend creating a budget to ensure that you can afford your monthly bills as to what they're offering in terms of the base salary that's being presented to you. You want to look at the pay cycle. Is it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, and then allocate accordingly. Again, creating that budget or spreadsheet of your bills against what they're offering is going to really help with your considering and evaluating that job offer. And also really talk to the people you trust for an open and honest feedback. Your mentors, advisors, peers, and family members to really gain their perspective on the job offer. Have multiple perspectives because everyone's unique, right? And things that you might not have considered. They are the most likely individuals in your life that will have your best interest in mind. Okay? So the last box, in today's current environment, telecommuting, as Ruth had mentioned, that can be really something that you should consider as well, right? Telecommuting may be your only option at this time. For us, it is, right? Until September, hopefully that will change for us. It requires you to come to work eventually. Think about how critical is that for you, right? The benefits and rewards of working virtually. Are you saving money? One is you're saving money on relocation or transportation. Having to go in business attire, the investment that you'll have to make in purchasing those attire if you don't already have one, or expanding your wardrobe. Again, that adds up, right? Discuss with the recruiter if your situation will change once the employees are able to return to the workplace. So if working virtually is permanent, you'll have to decide if this is the type of environment that you want to be in. I know when I went 100% remote, I struggled with that. I had to make some adjustments. Ideally, I like a mix of both, okay? Again, understanding what are some of those critical items for you is going to be important in considering. So in either case, definitely you can ask if there's an option to go into the office or telecommute a couple of times a week. Just have those discussions candidly. Your recruiter, as Ruth had mentioned, they are your liaison, your advocate. They are really a wealth of resources and information for you, okay? So let's move to the next slide. And then this is where we'll talk a little bit more about negotiating further, okay? So after you've done your research, you might have come to a conclusion that maybe the offer could be stronger. And that's okay, but just be prepared. It is a standard in the job offer process, especially for positions that require more experience. So it may be more difficult to negotiate salary, for example, for an entry-level position or program. because the company may want to stay consistent with the compensation package that are offering other candidates, for example. I actually recruit for early talent, so there's minimal, if any, required work experience. So that's why it's so much harder for you to negotiate there. But as you continue on to your career journey where you have more work experience, that's where there's going to be more opportunities for negotiations. Okay. Let's take a look at the first box there on this slide, and that's really focused on your attitude as you're approaching negotiations. So approach it with a positive attitude or mindset. When you receive the offer, be thankful and continue to reinforce your interest in the job by showing your enthusiasm. I know as a recruiter, it's like there's nothing worse feeling walking away after I make an offer and then someone has no enthusiasm. It tells me that I don't know if they're really serious about this job, right? Or are they really wanting to be in this role? Do they have a passion about it, right? So again, show enthusiasm, be grateful. If you're not serious about the position, then don't bother really trying to negotiate and waste everyone's time. So the other piece is be realistic about what you are counter offering, okay, based on the data that you collected. Be confident, and with research, that confidence comes with it, okay, when presenting your case in order to persuade the company what your worth is, what your value is, okay. Lastly, be honest and transparent, like I said, throughout the whole process. As Ruth had mentioned, this is really something that's critical and important. Make sure the information that you're sharing, such as your current pay, background, or competing offer is accurate. That's going to help us really to move things along quickly that aligns well to you as well, okay? So the second box lists really actions to take to begin the negotiation process. So when you receive that offer, take time to review it before coming back with a counter offer. You don't have to make a decision right in and there. Take that time, and it's okay to ask for time, as Ruth had mentioned earlier. But when you are ready, set up time with the recruiter or the hiring manager, whichever how that process works for them, but typically it's the recruiter, okay, to discuss over the phone. But I typically follow up also after the discussion in writing as to reinforce the reasons why I feel that a counter offer is warranted, okay? Make sure you understand the compensation package fully and know what is negotiable. For example, if the salary is non-negotiable, then ask if they can increase the sign-on bonus. There's some wiggle room there potentially, okay? Or if there's a possibility of working from home to save on transportation, maybe not 100%, maybe 50%, 30%, at least ask, okay, when possible. Make sure to provide reasoning behind it. Why are you countering off, why you're countering it? What potentially are you going to bring to the table to justify receiving that increase, okay? I've countered, and others have come to me to counter offer as well. The ones that I've seen that have been successful are the ones that come to the table with well-researched facts, data, and really great justifications as to why the offer should be higher. Lastly, avoid going back and forth. I think this is something that Dewey had kind of asked about, right? Honestly, I strongly recommend only doing it one round of negotiations. So make sure, again, coming to the table with well-researched information and really great justifications as to the reason why and what competencies and skills that's in addition to why you should be getting a higher offer, okay, before countering. Now, let's take a look in the next slide for a few offer scenarios.
Thanks, Kit.
Ruth?
And actually, before I take this slide, I'm going to ask you a question because I think this one came through the Q&A chat. So what do I do if the Career Center and my college is giving me a timeline and the company is not giving me the same timeline? Can companies do that? What can you do when a company is not following my campus timeline?
So we honestly, for early talent program, we do try to make sure that we're aware of those timelines, and we do try to adjust and accommodate. So definitely have those open dialogue with the recruiter, and then we will certainly have those discussions. Sometimes, you know, a company may have reasons why they can't stick with that timeline. And at times, and I've done it before, where I would connect with not only the student, right, but also with the campus career center to discuss the reasons behind why there should be an exception to that timeline.
Perfect. Thanks, Kit. All right. So as we mentioned, you know, most companies, we know when we talk to students, there's multiple offer scenarios that come across. And that, you know, if you're in that situation, you are in the best position possible. Not only does that give you some leverage, but obviously that ensures you that you're doing the right things, right? You're interviewing well, you are putting your eggs in more than one basket. You're not just picking one particular position. So what you want to do, and really is, we recommend creating a matrix, right? So jot it down, pen to paper, really understand the details of each offer. Earlier I mentioned, you know, does one have a bonus structure when one doesn't? One might be paying 5,000 more. One might be offer relocation. One might have a very structured training program that helps you understand, okay, after 6 months, I go to this rotation, after another 6 months, and by the end of 2 years, I'm at this particular level, where another one, it's not very structured. You kind of make your own career. So really understand, okay, what's going to be best for me now, and how am I going to benefit? List out all those factors for you for each job, and basically do yourself a checklist, right? Start comparing. And then if needed, you can always go back and ask additional questions, right? So maybe you didn't check off and you're like, oh, I didn't get the benefits for this one, or I didn't get the location specifically. Is this going to require travel or not? Let me get that information. You want to have all that information in play before you make that decision. One of the other questions that came through the Q&A is, what if I'm at an event and I'm offered the job right there on the spot during the interview? They discuss salary, so I know that that's a salary, but the pressure is to accept it right then and there. As Kit mentioned, it is perfectly okay to, you know, say, thank you so much for the offer, show your appreciation. I'd like to be able to take a look at the offer in detail. May I come back to you in 24 hours? Generally, when they are making on-the-spot offers, they're hoping that obviously that you can make a decision right then and then, but they also know some individuals may need to go home and discuss it with, you know, maybe a spouse, a parent, a friend, maybe their mentor. Maybe they still, you know, need some time to really look at the offer. That's perfectly acceptable. It is how you answer that and how you approach it that's going to be your leverage to be able to get that extra 24 hours. I would be surprised if a company were to say, nope, you can't leave the room or the event until you make a decision. You know, companies definitely will give you that opportunity. So I hope that helps. I'm going to tip it back to Kit.
Thanks, Ruth. Yeah, so let's talk about the different various scenarios that you could potentially encounter, right? And how best to handle some of those things. So let's take a look at this slide, particularly starting with the first one, the first scenario, right? You have an expiring deadline before other final rounds of interviews. So as we all know, you should really be interviewing with multiple companies, right? That really align to who you are and what you want to do, essentially. So this is, again, common. A recruiter may be able to help, as Ruth had mentioned actually earlier, right? To adjust that timeline, or maybe they can't. But again, it doesn't hurt to ask, okay? Let them know that you have an interview coming up. Keeping that open dialogue and being transparent is really going to help solidify that relationship that you're building with your recruiter. Again, I see myself and most of my recruiter peers see as well. Look to us as your resource, your advocate, and we are your liaison, okay? We're that conduit. Definitely let us know that you have an interview coming up or that you're expecting a competing offer. But provide a time frame that they can expect to work around potentially, if that's negotiable, right? As a campus recruiter, like I said, we hire heavily during the fall and some in the spring. So we understand it's competitive during those seasons, and students are interviewing with multiple locations and companies throughout the whole season there. If you still have not received a decision or competing offer within the time frame agreed upon, you can try to buy more time. However, just know that they might not be able to wiggle. It really, again, depends on the time frame, the timeline. If it's earlier in the season, as Ruth had mentioned, there's more wiggle room. But when it's crunch time and start date's just a few months away, they might not be able to negotiate a new decision date for you, okay? So let's look at the second scenario. A counteroffer really may not be negotiable. So this is, again, common in some situations where all hires are going into the same training program, for example, either an internship or early talent program. So essentially, there's not going to be a pay difference. You want to still ask the question because perhaps the only pay difference is based on geographical placement, for example, right? Perhaps the training salary is the same for all, but once you graduate from the training and are placed in a geographical market where the cost of living is higher, there might be a difference in pay. It would be good to know that information, again, going back to the research, okay? So scenario 3. So when to walk away from an offer. If you feel the offer is too low for you to accept based on your budget planning or the job really doesn't align to you and your career goals, right? Then it would be best to move on. At the end of the day, you want to have to ask yourself, are you going to be able to pay your bills, or will you also be happy doing this work? So thank the recruiter, though, for the offer and the hiring manager, and maintain a positive relationship because you never know, there might be another future opportunity down the road. Again, don't ever burn that bridge, okay? Keep a good impression. So next scenario, reneging on an acceptance. Ruth had mentioned this earlier. This is a huge no-no. This is when really a candidate or that finalist accepts the position or the role by signing the contract, then later decides, hey, I changed my mind. I was just, playing. This is, again, not a good idea. You want to avoid it if all possible. Look, we know it happens sometimes. Life's personal situations happen, but avoid it at all costs, okay? If you are a student, there might be negative consequences from your Career Center. We will communicate with your Career Center to let them know of what transpired. Because remember, you're putting the company and the recruiting team in a position as well. Again, most of the time when renegs happen, it happens just around the corner before start date. It doesn't allow us a lot of time to identify and allow other people to go through our process and identify someone else to fill those spots. Now the businesses, they don't have the talent that they need to fill their spots. And also, you're also hurting your fellow colleagues or peers out there because they lost out on a position because, again, you held up that spot and then you decided to withdraw at the last minute, okay? It takes a lot of time and effort, okay? So do yourself and the company a favor by not settling for a job that's not a good fit for you. That's why research, and research is so important, okay? The last scenario on this slide is you have been in an intern or a program associate with a company, let's say for a year or 2 years, right? And have multiple offers on the table. If you want to stay with the current company, but you want to negotiate, then I would go through the steps we discussed earlier. If you haven't received a return offer yet, then you should notify the recruiter that you have competing offers. This will be prompt. This actually will prompt them to act quickly if they want to retain you, for example. If you've been in the role for a year, then you must be performing well, obviously, okay? So let's take a look at additional ones in the next slide, please. So you might be wondering, should I take this first offer? Well, as we discussed, don't rush into anything. Consider the timing of the offer. If you're being offered an internship in August, September for the following summer, but you're still interviewing with other companies in September or October, then you may need to ask for more time with that recruiter, okay? If it's your dream job and you want to do it, then say yes, take that offer. But make sure once you accept it, I would strongly suggest that you just stop all interviews with other companies. Don't tempt yourself, okay? But always take into account the timing of the offer, like I mentioned, because you don't want to have to renege. It's a big no-no again. So you're probably wondering, so if you're wondering, is an undergraduate degree or a graduate degree, which one pays more? Well, it depends, right? They could pay more, the graduate degree, but some companies may have early talent programs for undergrad and graduate level and may pay differently because the scope and complexity of the work, right? But there are some undergraduate programs, for example, that do hire some graduate into it, but the pay still will be at that quote unquote undergraduate program level, okay? As long as everyone's aware, it should be a good match there. A graduate level training program may have a shorter training period and have a higher performance expectations. So like I mentioned, there potentially might be pay difference, but not always, okay? Company guidelines for negotiations are very different, not only from industry, but from company to company. Keep that in mind. If you're an internal within a company or a team member, moving into a different role or different opportunity that's of hire, for example, that hiring manager may have to hold to their pay guidelines. So the room for negotiation may not be as wide or may not be allowed for a large increase, for example. There are criteria that they look at. So salary negotiations can be tougher once you are an internal employee, okay? So another scenario that comes up is salary comparison. Some companies prohibit the sharing of compensation with peers and can be grounds for termination. So understand the policies and guidelines there. Make sure you know what the criteria are. You can certainly leverage industry information of all the websites that I had mentioned earlier to show what your role is earning with other companies and region, and do some market research as well, like I mentioned, but you should never put a peer in that uncomfortable scenario of asking them what their salary is, okay? Again, if all possible, try to avoid it. I don't discuss it, okay? But I leverage resources out there that's available and that's public. So one question that comes up often is, how do I be more competitive and marketable in the workplace? Well, there are always opportunities to cross-train. There are internal and external resources, online and in-person opportunities for you to learn. So make sure that when there's a project coming up and you're aware of, raise your hand. Limit your nose if you can handle it or take that on, right? Partner with your manager to come up with a plan to really expand your skills and exposure to those areas of focus for you where you essentially want to be. Work with your management team to get you to where you want to be, okay? And never stop networking. And preparing for that next promotion or level. It doesn't have to necessarily be promotion. People sometimes draw on that. I really look at and approach it as a learning opportunity. If you want to grow and learn, those next steps, I believe, will come, okay? If you're not preparing and working on your skill set, then you're not making yourself more attractive to that next hiring manager potentially or opportunity. I know we shared a lot of information today, guys. Let that sink in a bit. So let's pause and see what questions have come from the online Q&A. And I want to also launch a poll while you're thinking of questions, right? To see if there are any change of minds regarding just what we just went over in terms of salary components. So what's more important to you? What factors are important when you're evaluating an offer? Is it 401k and retirement, employee benefits, salary or bonus targets, location, telecommuting, company brand, or all of the above? Do we have the tally yet?
I think let's go ahead and close the poll and see if it changed a bit.
I'm excited. Drum roll.
Drum roll.
Look at that.
All right. So salary dipped a little.
Wow.
And then other factors, you know, and I will tell you guys, 2020 has made all of us reevaluate what's important, and all of those factors. You know, we're looking for, you know, career pathing, mobility, training. What is the support we're getting? That is obviously going to contribute to that higher pay. As Kit mentioned, if you're training and you're cross training, you're going to get that higher pay. Great question. All right.
Team, some interesting results there, to say the least. And it's interesting. I'm looking through some of the questions, and scholars, thank you, and partners for submitting those. I think you've actually covered off on all of the ones that have come in so far. So double check your inbox to anyone that sent a note. You should have a direct response relative to your question with things. So I'm keeping an eye on the clock, team. Great information. I want to just give you back a moment to maybe share kind of a closing thought around things. And so, Ruth, if it's okay, I'll start with you. A lot of pieces that you all have unpacked today. A lot of strings have been pulled in different areas. What are the next steps that scholars need to be thinking about? Again, they've got 2 offers in their hand. They're having to make decisions. Just give them a word of encouragement that they need to really hold on to make that right decision at that time.
Really, you know, it is pressure, right? How do I make decision that things are going to change in 6 months and a year? We didn't anticipate 2020. So what you want to do is take that knowledge of comparing the both offers, black and white, right? And then I will tell you, many times a decision is an emotional decision and is also a connection decision. So it is important to make connections with your recruiter, with the people that you are interviewing with. Many times it is perfectly okay to say, you know, I'd love to talk to some of the bankers or some of the people in the role. Is there any way you can connect me? Look for those connection points. Many of us, I'm a people person. I make those connections based on, you know, gosh, do I feel I'm going to get supported? You know, what is that training going to look like? What is my long-term going to look like? So know that everyone has different reasons for that decision, but take the pressure off by just putting a pen to paper. And then if you need to, talk to a mentor, talk it one-on-one with your career services. And then, you know, pull the trigger. We know that many of you will make a career change, you know, in a few years, but we all have a starting point, right? So know that your starting point is not your end point.
Okay, Ruth, a ton of good pieces there. And scholars, again, I'm going to encourage you to go ahead and get connected in with Ruth directly on LinkedIn, and, you know, set up a virtual coffee. See if you can grab 15 minutes with her. And she bills by the half hour on things. Again, this is a joke that some folks are like, what does that mean? She bills by the half hour. So just ping her and try to get 15 minutes. And I promise you'll come out smarter on the other end. So Ruth Armandati's team. Kit, same question here, but I want you to take this from a different perspective. We obviously have junior talent on, but maybe we have some seasoned professionals on with us today. Maybe we have some folks that have been in industry for a while. I want you to take it to the other end of the spectrum and talk to them about what they may need to think about, or even someone's listening to the playback that's 15, 20 years in the industry. What are the things that they need to be thinking about if they're considering a transition, if they're thinking about a change, whether it's internally or externally? Please spend as much time as you'd like on that one.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to tag on to Ruth's situation, and I'm glad he came over here as well, because I was going to add, honestly, it really depends. As you can see from the polls, right? Everyone's at different phase of our life. So what's important to me early on in my career might not necessarily be at the top of my list now. Being an old person right now with lots of years of experience, really, what's important to me is really the work that I do, and also just the stability of the work, right? Wow. How am I adding value to this role, but is it also adding value to who I am and what I want to do and what I want to be now that I'm in the later stage of my career? All of us have different critical, important things that we prioritize. It might shift over time. Like I said, if you're early in your career and just coming out of school, whether it be high school or college, you're going to be much more driven by, what can I learn? What can I grab on? When's my next move, right? So mobility might not be as a huge issue for you, but it is for me. I have deep roots here in Texas. I have family. I have a kid. So not necessarily a kid anymore.
She's
So
got Dallas
I'm not
Cowboys
for
season
example.
tickets, all those
Darn
kinds
right.
of things.
Yeah, I wish. But yeah, I mean, again, determine what's the top 3 or 5 things that's important to you, and then decide from there.
And Kit, those 3 to 5 may be different from Ruth to Karen to Nicole
Exactly.
to Tim to you and I. It can be totally different. And scholars, if your list is your list, it's your list. And others will say, well, why not? You should take that because it's X, Y, and Z. That may be number 7 on your list, or it could be number 1 on theirs. And so again, just like we said, very cautionary, not going to be in a position where you're asking other individuals' salaries. Do your research in those kinds of areas. But I had someone give me counsel a long time ago. Never try to compare where you are to someone else, because you never know what it took for them to get there, and you don't know what they're having to do to stay at that level. So just be really careful as you're kind of thinking about those pieces. So shout out to Pete Moore, one of my great managers from years and years and years ago, and a great mentor who gave me that advice. My goodness, back when I was in college. So really years ago. All right, same rules, team. Go ahead and get in contact with Kit. And scholars, I'm going to encourage and challenge you with this as we kind of close things out for today. If you heard something today that Ruth mentioned, boom, go ahead and mention it in social media. @mention Ruth, @mention Kit, @mention Wells Fargo, and put in that soundbite of what you heard. Hey, this is what I heard Ruth say. This is what @KitCam said during this wonderful session. And here's why I want to pass that along. Here's the action item that I'm going to take in the next 30 days relative to the information that was shared. I promise you, we'll see those things as you share them. And then in turn, it's going to be able to help others along their journey as well. So Kit, Ruth, I salute you all. Thank you so much.
Are we not competing? Are we not competing again?
See, all right. So listen, and well, keeping an eye on the clock, but absolutely, we mentioned it at the top of the call. And I've got my phone on the charger, so I've had a goose egg of LinkedIn requests, but I never win this race anyway, team. So, but don't forget, you can connect with me. But yeah, let's see, Ruth, do you have your LinkedIn up? Do you want to share how many requests you've received? And Kit will let you do the same thing. We're not competitive at all here, Wells Fargo.
Not competitive at all, but I might have to look.
Well, Kit, we'll start with you as Ruth is getting logged in. Go ahead and give us your count. Drum
roll.
Oh,
it's coming in. I don't know the count yet, but it's coming in. I'm excited.
I have 3 so far. So guys, I don't know. Let them come in.
Wow. Well, listen, I mean, we almost have 300 registered today. So 3 is an okay number, but I think there's some room to grow there. All right, Kit, did you see yours? You want to disclose, or just we'll give it some more time to build?
I've seen a few already, so I don't know. We'll wait for some time. It might be my, my internet connection, like you had mentioned earlier.
All right, so got you on dial-up over there. So, and listen, real talk. When scholars reach out to you, are you okay with them connecting in with you? Can they ask you a question? Can you sit down and talk with them about different career opportunities? Are you all open to doing that?
Absolutely. I've done it for my last session. Wow. I've actually scheduled multiple, both with internal and external. Sorry about that, Ruth. Over to you.
And Kit and I are very similar. If you reach out to us, we can, get on the clock 10 minutes. We'll do it. One of the individuals asked in one of her questions, how can I find a mentor? Would you offer it? Definitely, so reach out to us, guys. Leverage the resources. We have resources. And look, if I can't be your mentor, believe me, we've got a network of peers that we can reach out to and get you guys connected. So please make sure that you leverage that.
Outstanding. Hey, listen, team, thanks so much. We're going to continue on here, and we've gotten some follow-up questions that have come in relative to recording. So we'll touch on those during the reminders, and we'll also touch about some additional content. And again, one of the messages here literally says they enjoyed the deep level of information. And scholars, I want to commend you all for taking time to join. It's very important to access information and to sign up, but it's even more important when you show up to obtain it. So, all right, we're going to cover off on our reminders, and we're going to talk about that important date, which I know you all already have it in mind. You can drop it into the Q&A function here. So the next slide, you'll see some important details here, again, around the Beyond College webinar series. 6 already completed, team. Please remember, you can visit the APIA Scholars YouTube page. So everyone just do a fast Google search for APIA Scholars YouTube. It's going to take you right to their page. You can click one link and you can see the playback for our 6 sessions. Give us a little bit of time here to be able to get today's session online, but that one will also be available for replay. Same rules. If you're sharing the information with others, pass it along to others that you think may benefit from it. So that top link will ultimately change that out with the new URL here going forward for the playback. And then July the 29th, July the 29th, July the 29th. We said it, we said it, we said it. Critically important that you come and join us for that great discussion. And you also saw the programming coming up in August, September, October, and November as well. But even before that, we want you to mark your calendars for 1 week from today. Very excited that we're going to be partnering for the 3rd time now with our partners in the Corporate Investment Bank for the next installment of the A Day in the Life. And this one is close to me, y'all. So I was a big fan of the Bad Boys back in the late 1980s, early 90s. And we have that dude, man, Joe Dumars, as they used to say it, out there at the out at the arena there for the Pistons. So we're really excited. Joe D, if you all have not learned much about him, you can certainly jump online. You can see his background, see his Hall of Fame career, and then ultimately how he's taken everything he learned on the hardwood and built in all of those years and transitioned that into some amazing work that he's doing in the for-profit space now, and also is leading great work with the Sacramento Kings there out in Northern California. So come join us. You see the links here, same rules, team. Scholars, please share this information with anyone, even if they've never thought about banking. I promise you, Joe and our other partners, Danielle Squires and Lear Bear, and a great panel of junior talent are going to be coming to talk about their experiences within the industry. So even if you've never thought about banking, we want you to come and join and be with us there again for an evening session here on June the 24th. So go ahead and get registered for that one at this time. All right, our last couple of items here we'll touch on briefly. Just a reminder, university programs. That's how you stay connected in with Ruth. That's how you get connected in with Kit. Certainly make sure that you're leveraging the resources again on the Beyond College webinar page. And do not forget about tuition funding sources. Huge shout out to Richard and to his team. They are the team now that are sharing the information relative to our webinar series. So get connected with tuition funding sources. Something like 7 million scholarships. I think Ruth and Kit was the number that I saw out there that they have it. I'm not exaggerating. It is a significant number. Get connected into TFS. Everyone that's on, whether you're in your undergraduate experience, whether you're a high schooler, or whether you're looking for dollars for graduate school, or even for your doctoral programs, get connected in and plug into the resources available through tuition funding sources. All right, I think that our final slide here is just going to be a reminder about the talent community. Most certainly, we touched on this earlier, so go ahead and get connected in there. Great way to learn about, again, career opportunities that are available, and get some of the push messaging that the team is sending out. They send really, really great content and a great way to stay connected into the work that our firm is leading and giving you a chance to be a part of this wonderful community of folks that are building the next level of their careers going forward. So important information there. So get signed up for the talent community as well. All right, and I think our last couple of items are just reminders around our feedback link. We'll also get this one sent out to you when you get the playback, which we'll send out to everyone here probably over the next week and a half, 2 weeks or so. We'll get you that link there. You can go ahead at that time and share feedback, or go ahead and grab a screen grab of this and just give us feedback. We always want to know your opinions of how we did. If you liked it, great. We want to know that. If we can do a better job in other areas, let us know those things too, as we continue to refine our processes around things from there. All right, now, last but not least, we're going to get a drum roll again. Do not forget to join us on July the 29th. I'll tell you, team, we touched on this earlier for our discussion around Wells Fargo careers and internships. 2,100 plus registrants last year. I would really love to see us get to 2,500. It's not a stretch goal. What I would ask is that everyone that's on the line with us today, if you enjoyed this content, post it, share the information with others. To folks that are watching the replay, share the information with others. Hashtag pay it forward. And let's give it to someone else that can actually benefit from the information that we are sharing. So join us on July the 29th. Again, 4 o'clock kickoff here Eastern time for that particular one. And then right after that, you can go watch the NBA draft and check out things from that perspective. So my closing thoughts will be very brief today. It is first of all, I would like to thank our wonderful partner, Tim Reed, our wonderful partner, Barbara Scotland. Certainly want to thank Karen, certainly want to thank Nicole, certainly want to thank Doel and the entire team at API Scholars, Dawn, who's also working in the background around a lot of these things. Thank you all so much for all you do to help us put these wonderful productions together. There's a lot of work that's happening behind the scenes team to make these things happen. It's not me getting in the makeup chair only. There's a lot of other folks here that are at it. Hair and makeup, by the way, that is Ruth. Don't be laughing at my hair and makeup. But no, we've got a lot of great partners behind the scenes that are doing really great work. Also, there's some significant things happening within our nation right now. And what I would ask is that folks take into consideration, without going into any detail, some of the things that are happening within our nation's history. And I also want you all to reflect on everything that you did successfully last academic year. Some of you maybe did not have a chance to go to class. Maybe you were virtual the entire year. Maybe, man, you're finally getting back now to seeing friends and family face to face. Please, let's take full advantage of those opportunities where we can. Let's kind of remember the season that we've gone through in these given areas and the way that we've supported one another. And as things now are changing and transitioning, we're going to have to provide a different level of support for one another in the days ahead. So please find ways to connect in there. And it's also Father's Day weekend that's coming up for those of you all that are fortunate enough to have had a father in your life and or still have dad around. Please take a minute to celebrate them in a special way. Dads are never going to get as much credit as moms, nor do we deserve as much credit as moms, but Father's Day weekend is here. And for those that had that privilege of having a father or a father figure in their life, just take a minute and maybe ping a note over to dad and just tell him how much you appreciate him and thank him. And if he cries, it'll only be out of one eye. He'll never cry out of both eyes, just out of one eye. And it's like the eye that's away from you, so you can't really see it. So again, some softer kinds of comments there as we close things out, team. I'm honored and privileged to be able to do this work. Please continue to give us feedback on the things that you're enjoying, and please help us to continue to refine our processes from here. Stay safe, team. Have a great summer. Enjoy those internships. We will see you on July 29th, 4 p.m. kickoff for our great discussion around Wells Fargo careers and internships. Team, we salute you. Keep up the good work.